Hello, TopFanRivalry followers. It's that time. It's time to talk college. Dave, Bill, let's get it on. It's episode 4. Hello, Dave, and how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Let's do this. Tonight we're going to go through, or I should say today, we're going to go through the Big Ten and the SEC. So, Dave, I know you have a little bit of connection to the SEC. So, do you want to lead the viewers off with which teams are in the SEC for baseball?
Sure. We've got some of the best baseball in the country here. We've got the East and West Division, and leading off in the East, probably the top teams are Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, and probably Vandy in there too somewhere. Um, and then Kentucky, Georgia, and Missouri. You know, probably bringing up the rear. It's funny how Kentucky is finished fifth in the division overall, and they were 19 games over 500. That's how good these divisions are and how good the SEC is. They can win 19 more games. They only were ahead in the SEC play by two, but yeah, that gets you fifth. And then on the other side in the West, Arkansas, LSU, Texas A&M, probably the cream of the crop right there. Then you have Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. And same thing, you got an Alabama team that was came in fourth out of this group, or is projected to come in fourth. So
Yeah.
tough competition.
Yeah. Big Ten, little different story there. You got Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, the Ohio State University, Penn State, Purdue, and Rutgers. You've got some teams in there that have had pretty big difficulties. Minnesota was 18 and 34 last season. In conference, they were 10 and 14. Um, Ohio State was 9 and 15 in conference, but they were 31 and 25 overall. Northwestern is kind of what we'll call rebuilding, 4 and 20 in conference and 10 and 40 overall. So you've got a top 20 or top 25 team there in Iowa. Iowa was 44 and 16 overall last season, 15 and 8. Um, they've got they've got some players. They've got some players for sure. They're ranked 20 going into the season. And interestingly enough, Dave, I don't know if you know this or not, but it's been a decade since the University of Michigan has not had a winning record in college baseball. And they finished 28 this last season. So I know there were some coaching changes there, some personnel changes. It'll be interesting to see how they bounce back this year. And how does that play itself out? Or are they quote unquote rebuilding? Who knows?
Yeah, and Indiana's usually a team over there that has a pretty good track record with players and with their performance too. I don't know what they look like this year. I know Michigan. I think the coach from Arizona State's up there now.
Hmm.
Trying to keep his guys along, and I know there's at least one Arizona guy there playing third base this year, called Caruso, that I think everyone ought to keep an eye on. He came up as a shortstop, transferred from Carolina Upstate, and has really made a name for himself over there. So I think he's going to play really well in the hot corner for Michigan this year, and I think you'll see a little twist in that record toward the winning side this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was interesting because as I was looking at Big Ten, SEC, you mentioned a lot of powerhouse schools in the SEC, baseball wise, right? I mean, when you're talking football, Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, I mean, these are all Ohio State, right? But when you're talking baseball, pitching's key, and obviously the SEC has it. it was interesting to see. It was interesting to see how many of how many teams in the Big Ten actually play anybody that's ranked this season in the top 25. And believe it or not, Illinois plays Tennessee, and they play
Yes,
Wake Forest. Um, Indiana plays Duke, and that's it.
right there. There's six tough games for them.
Yeah. And so
That's
when you're
six
talking
tough
about
games for them.
you're talking about Illinois playing Wake Forest on the 17th of this month, obviously in the tournament. And then you're talking about Tennessee playing Illinois the 8th through the 10th of March. I mean, those are some rough games. You're not getting away easy on that. So Tennessee's ranked what,
Yeah,
9 overall?
Michigan's making a West Coast swing here. They're getting the heck out of snow country, and that's probably something they do every year. But they're on the road all the way through. Gosh, they go back to Ann Arbor for one game in early March, and they're back on the road.
Yeah, yeah. They it's
South
funny.
Carolina's a good team. And,
It's funny. Michigan goes goes to Maryland in March, and I just thought, well, let's just see how warm and fuzzy that's going to be.
tell you what, too, they're playing Oklahoma State, Oregon State, and Arkansas in this um, Shriners Classic the week after Tennessee is in Dallas. There's three tough games right there for Michigan.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
And
what's
it's,
interesting,
I think they're all ranked. Those are really tough.
yeah, what's interesting is what a difference 2 seasons makes, right? In players. So if you're talking about University of Michigan in 2021, they were 27 and 17. They finished this last season out at 28 and 28. So, I mean, they kind of, I mean, no wonder there was some coaching changes and personnel changes. Um, but what does it say when you're looking, if you're a team, uh, and the SEC has these too, but when you're a team like a Minnesota or a Northwestern, Northwestern was 10 and 40. I mean, that's about the Oakland A's record, right? For the first
That's tough.
50 games. Are you just happy to have a jersey at that point, or do you make some changes?
Happy to well, happy to go and maybe knock off, maybe be the spoiler and upset some people and get after them that way. Couple programs that are kind of in rebuild mode: Alabama, Missouri. There's coaching changes, and from what I've looked at, the common way to do that is to go after athleticism and speed, and just try to run people right out of your stadium. Because you're going to have a tough time getting the big home run hitters, the guys that are going to hit 400 for you. If you don't have them already, you're probably not getting them in the portal or anything. And your pitching, I mean, unless you have stud pitchers, get them in the portal if they're just going to come and play 500 baseball and miss a regional. So that's tough. So it's easier, I guess, to just go after athletes, guys that are going to get you good long at bats. And when they get on base, they're gonna just run like crazy and just play a heck of a great defensive game and keep you in it just to see what happens.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see more of that.
You and I have talked about this a number of times at the MLB level. And so we'll go back to this and just say it really simply. The old school style baseball that you and I grew up on, the get them on, get them over, get them in, is still the way to play baseball at any level. You could be facing the top 5 prospect that's definitely going into the draft this next season and throws 100 miles an hour. You could be facing him and just get a C9 ground ball that gets in for a base hit, and then use your speed, right? It doesn't take a lot. You
Absolutely,
don't
and
have to hit 5 home runs in a game.
he is probably a cut above, but it's college baseball, and you're going to have guys make mistakes, guys miss cutoffs, guys, not be ready for a bunt, whatever. It's going to happen a lot more than in the pros. And, the teams that, probably the cut point of like the best defending teams in college baseball to an average team is going to be a bigger cut than in the pros. So,
Yeah.
um, there's 980, 970 fielding percentage baseball in college, but there aren't many of those.
Yeah.
So you take your chances. Put pressure on the defense. Always.
So I looked up a couple of players. One I'm going to mention, just on the sheer talent side of it, but Brody Breck, out of Iowa. Apparently, he's a big tall glass of water, right? 6'4", 235. Pitcher. Did lose his starting position last season only because he gives up a lot of walks. The kid had 109 strikeouts in 77 innings, but had 61 walks. Now, rumor has it that last year his top out speed was 104. That's coming in quick, right? But if the control issues are there, then you're going to struggle. And so that becomes the next question, right? Is how do you get those control issues under? And we talk about this all the time at the major league level. Is velo the most important thing, or is it hitting your spots? Right.
Well, and everything goes full circle, right? I mean, you're seeing right now, I think, a transition from power arms and trying to blow it by guys to I need pitchers. I need guys that are going to keep me in the game. They're going to get me 4, 5, 6 innings and let me get to the bullpen when it's still close. That's what I need. A guy like that, hopefully, maybe take a little off and work on those secondary pitches so that you can stay in the game longer. Otherwise, you end up in a close to get a few outs. The thing too in college baseball is that these top programs have most, if not all, the tools the Major League Baseball teams have. So they're going to have pitch tracks and Rapsodo, and they've got all those fancy computerized pitching machines that can dial in the exact stats of any pitcher you want, and they'll throw the ball. The machine will throw the ball just like that kid does. Same spin rate, same everything. So they get to practice against you every day before they've even seen you, which is not what it used to be. I mean, think about like Illinois going to Tennessee. And not that long ago, they would be like, "Wow, I've seen Drew Beam on TV, but I've never." And now you've got as much video as you can consume, and you've got all of their pitch data. You've got scouting. You've got everything, almost like a pro team. So kind of evens the playing field there a little bit. And then, guys are going to walk into Iowa's field there, and if they know the rundown on that pitcher, I mean, how would you coach that? I'm taking until he throws me a strike, and we'll see how it goes. And hopefully, he can turn that around on them and say, hey, guess what? I found a change up, and I thought, they're going to walk in there prepared for that. So it's who's going to adjust the last and who's going to come out ahead.
Yeah. The you bring up some good points in the sense that a lot of technology is used, but it's unique because for some reason right now, and it's at all levels, it's high school, it's college, it's the MLB, right? Everybody's trying to throw 200 miles an hour when you and I grew up watching Maddox and Smoltz and Glavine. Those guys did not throw 200 miles an hour, but they sure could paint those corners. And so in the at the college level, the scouting side of it, understand, you said it perfectly. I mean, you look at a guy and you think, okay, this guy typically throws a curveball second pitch regardless of the count. Well, you take the first pitch, maybe he misses his own, and now you've got a curveball probably coming your way. It's just understanding things. And for pitchers, for college pitchers, it's about pumping the zone, right? And it's not using a ton of effort and a ton of pitches, very low stress level pitches. That's how you win ball games. If you're always playing with second and third and one out or no outs, well, those are high stress level pitches, and you're prone to make mistakes um, versus runner on first or nobody on with two outs. You're not
Yeah.
high stress level. So I both of these divisions are great, Dave. They both have very talented not only people on their staff, talented players, and some of them we'll see playing in the World Series in that tournament. Some of them are still rebuilding. Ohio State might be rebuilding a little bit. Northwestern might be rebuilding a little bit. Minnesota might be rebuilding a little bit. But it just takes a couple of wins and a couple of decent seasons for players to want to play in that type of a program, right? And with everything that changes now, and when I say that tongue in cheek, but when everything changes where you have a Pac-10 that really has, 12 teams or 13 teams in it, um, it's pretty fluid, right? Before we know it, it'll be like the MLB where the Braves were in the National League West, but you had to fly over the Cardinals, who were the National League East, to get to Atlanta. So made a ton
Yeah.
of sense, didn't it?
Yeah. Not so much.
Exactly. Exactly. So okay, so final thoughts on SEC, final thoughts on Big Ten. Dave, final thoughts on what you're looking for out of this season, because most of these guys start playing this weekend, right? And
Yeah, we've got a
so
bunch of games starting up this weekend, and it'll be interesting to see how these teams get out of the blocks. I think, like most seasons, it's not a real big stretch to say that the SEC is going to send 7 or 8 teams to regionals, if
mhm.
not more. At least half of those, maybe more, will host. And it seems like just on the outside looking in that most of these teams are built around hitting, and the pitching is not as strong. That's not the case. You've got Arkansas, LSU, probably the best pitching staffs in the SEC, arguably. Um, right up behind them will be Tennessee and Kentucky, maybe South Carolina. So there's some real dudes here. I mean, you look at top prospects for the upcoming MLB draft, and Arkansas. I mean, A&M's got a couple, Vanderbilt's got a couple. LSU's all over this board. With top players. There's 5 guys in the top 18 for this upcoming draft. 3 of which are pitchers. So um, a lot of really strong. The top pitching staffs are really good. I think just to make their mark. If some of these freshmen can come in and really make a difference, get some innings, and really get some comfortable with the SEC and the level of play, and really have some results. So that will be the differentiator, I think, is how these transfers come in and how each school's freshmen adapt and come in and contribute. Some really good athletes here. I don't know if you know anything about Jack Caglianone in Florida, but he's probably your closest thing to Shohei. Two-way guy, hits bombs, plays first base, and he throws lefty and he can bring it.
Who made it throw his
So
lefties
fun guy
good
to
in my
watch.
book.
Fun guy to watch until he plays Tennessee, but really fun player to watch.
Until he plays Tennessee. Well, again, you're right. There's going to be a lot of teams that in the SEC. Big Ten might not be as dominant as the SEC is going to be, but I'm I'm confident that we'll see some good baseball out of the Big Ten still. Again, Iowa is ranked 20. Don't put it past teams like Indiana. Don't put it past teams like Maryland to kind of make a bounce. right, and try to make some push. But you mentioned it perfectly earlier. It's going to be all about the pitching. And honestly, those of you that are listening to this podcast, you might get tired of Dave and I mentioning pitching, but that's the way that you win college baseball. And that's 90% of what we're talking about here. And so, but yeah, I'm very excited to see the game start this weekend. I wish I was with you in Dallas. Instead, I'm double booked. I'm going to be here in Orange County doing some promotional stuff for Top Fan. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to
Well,
being out
I'm
there.
gonna get a I'm gonna get an up close look at Tennessee for the next 10 days. I'll see 8 games, and then
Good.
I'll obviously see Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Baylor while I'm there. And then back in Knoxville, I know we play Albany that weekend. There's a couple of teams midweek, um, so be a really good way to just kick off the season with 8 games. And Texas Tech, I think, is probably the strongest of those three. Not that Oklahoma or Baylor are any slouch, but right off the bat, you're going to get it going. So it'll be fun. Can't wait to kick off the SEC season, see how some of these other teams do. And I can't emphasize enough baseball. So
Yeah.
if you're not
Yeah.
watching, you ought to be watching.
It's the real world now. Pitchers and catchers are reporting at the MLB level. Colleges are playing their starting to get into their tournaments. It's exciting times. It's exciting times. We've waited long enough, right? And
You
so,
got LSU, you got Tommy Tanks, Tommy White coming back. Hagen Smith in Arkansas, lefty pitcher, is probably the best pitcher in the SEC. Drew Beam, our guy in Tennessee, fun to watch. He can bring it 96, 98 when he needs to. Um, just a bunch of good, really, really good athletes to watch. There's some fun athletes in Auburn. Ike Irish is a really good player. So yeah, I can't emphasize enough. Get on your ESPN Plus or your other streaming service and find these games
yeah,
and
100%.
give these boys a look.
Yeah. You and I are going to have to go live when you're at the stadium this weekend and try to catch up a little bit. And it'll be a good time. So, all right, my friend. I think we ought to do this again next week. Give some reports, give some status updates, break down some of the plays. There'll be a lot to talk about, that's for sure.
And we'll be
So,
able to start talking about actual box scores and players' performances. That'll be good.
exactly. Instead of just, oh, all right. So awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Well, Dave, let's do this again next week. Let's make sure that we're going live once or twice from the stadium this weekend, and we'll see where we get.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. For you Top Fan Rivalry followers, this is episode 4. One more, and then these go in the locker room. So we're excited to have you on board. Can't wait to hear some of your thoughts. Make sure that you're dropping us comments on what you think of these episodes. So, well, Dave, let's do it again.
Sounds good. Go Balls.
There you go.